Yo, welcome back. This is Out of Battery Live. I am one of your hosts, Cape, and we're back from the break today. And who do we have here? What's going on, Middleton? How are you doing today?
You know, my daughter has been great today, so I am less stressed than usual, and I have some hard cider next to me, so it's gonna be a good night.
There we go. Danny, what's going on, man?
To the contrary, all of my animals have been spawns of Satan today, so a little bit more stressed than usual, but doing good.
Good. How are you, Swarm? How are you doing, man?
Living the dream, baby. Been
You're
growing
looking-
out the beard, building some guns. I was a good boy, so Santa brought me a bamboo. I can't complain.
Holla.
Santa brought you a bamboo.
Yep. Thought I was gonna get coal.
I got coal. Fuck that fat man.
Yo, what's up, Bitplum? What's going on?
How are you guys? Good? Me too. Santa didn't bring me a bamboo. I'm going to have to actually go out and earn one. I'm going to win a bamboo. Look at Swarmies over here. I got me a new printer, but I'm going to keep printing the same filament over and over again. Not try out nothing new in it.
Nilex supremacy all day. I
Hey,
will die
if
on
you're
this hill.
If you're gonna say it, you better talk about how you're gonna win printer. You can't just mention it and then not tell everybody else how you're gonna
so
do
there's
it.
a contest. Yeah, there's a contest going on right now. Coop and Mussy got they got an MP22. It's pretty sweet. It's like one of the sweetest little 22 builds you can do right now. Best build wins a Bamboo X1 Carbon. Second place gets a Cobra Max. Third place gets a Cobra Plus, and fourth place, worst build, gets a parts kit so they can do it better next time.
Oh, so you'll have two then after the contest is over.
Right. First and worst. I'm bringing the A game, boys. There's some heavy hitters in that competition. I promise. I'm bringing my A game.
Dude, so if someone's watching this and they're not part of the contest, do they still have time to like go sign up for it?
I'm not sure if there's like a deadline to enter the contest, but the contest deadline is the 30th of January. You got to have a completed build, and it is best build. The room will vote. Also, proof of function test. So you actually got to show that it works, not just, try to get some smooth lines from your bamboos and stuff. Smooth lines ain't winning this contest, boys.
So salty.
Dude, I love that you're simultaneously knocking the bamboo and striving as hard as possible to win one.
Fuck that shit until I have one.
So,
man.
quick interjection. So every time we like start the episode, we like do this thing where we like introduce ourselves, and it always feels very like weird to me. We know each other. Like 90% of the people watching this have seen us before. Do we need to introduce ourselves? Can I stop doing this? I feel a bit fucking silly doing it.
Nope. You're
I
gonna
think that's
continue to
why
do
we
it
do
forever.
Oh,
Yeah,
We
because
have
it's
to
silly.
do it.
Always.
What if this is the first episode they ever watched? They don't know that our names are Cape, Justin, Danny, Middleton, Bit, and Swarm. Like, how would they not know? Like, how would someone find out if we didn't say it?
Truly, we are making some mistakes, and I'm here to rectify them. Next episode, I'm not introducing. I'm going to start introducing and catch myself and not do it. We're going to see how it goes. I don't know why, but I'm just feeling it. We're mixing it up.
I
feel
love how
like
he asks that with his name literally over the bottom left of his.
The thing though is like the crowd we're recording is like illiterate people, so we can't rely on the text actually.
Yeah, no one
clue
knows
them
how
in.
to read. People, if you know how to read, why would you print guns?
Who is Justin Hates?
So
Hey,
for
I got
this
something
episode,
new in gunCAD.
okay.
I want to talk about this thing. So, Mr. Snow sent me this file. It's a little 2-bullet quiver M-lock. You put some bolts and some T-nuts in there, slap it on the side of my M-lock rail on my precision rifle. I got a little quiver, 3D printed. It's fucking sick.
That's cute.
Yeah.
What does it hold?
This one holds 6.5 Creedmoor.
And that's the same size case as 308?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't measured it. Maybe, probably close. I'm sure you could use a hairdryer to make it fit whatever similar round you need it to fit. Whatever. Sure.
Has Mr. Snow released it?
I don't think so, but he sent it to me. I'm sure if you hit him up, he might send it to you or whoever. Just send him, hit us up in his DMs. I'm sure there's no one ever in his DMs.
Is Mr. Snow gonna do a DIY King of the Mile?
He might. I think he's gonna try.
He might.
He's talking about something today. He put like a 1 pound trigger in something today or something. I don't know.
I saw it.
I can't read, so I don't know what it was.
What is that? Can you fill me in?
On what?
King of the
A 1
Mile?
pound?
Yeah.
Mile.
King of the Mile is like I think it's a title you win, shoot during the competition. It's long range shooting, precision. long
Checks out.
range
Checks out.
shooting.
Checks out.
So Mr. Snow
Yeah.
does some. He does some reloading and some long range stuff. When we were there, we got to see some of what he's got some real nice precision rifle setups that he's built.
Yeah, we got to handle some of his stuff, and some of those trigger pulls are fucking terrifying. Terrifying.
So
Before we get all crazy, I just wanted to give a shout out to our boy Rusty Shackelford. He's got some stickers for sale. The proceeds from the stickers are going to support the Sturmgewehr development. There's Rusty right there. So get your ass over to eBay. Fucking add to your sticker collection. Put that porn on your printer. Give
us a recap. What is the Sturmgewehr? What is he doing?
So I believe it's an Evo remix. I think it's going to use Evo Bolt, right? You know, you saw it. He showed us. Don't shake our heads. He was on the fucking show.
That was the one.
I
night
just
was
remember
gone.
putting on my tinfoil hat and being old on that show. Really, is the only thing I remember.
And everything got
about the
blurry
show.
after that.
Yeah, after that, it's spaced out.
Block the signal with all that fucking tinfoil.
So apparently the signal can be stopped.
Get your ass to eBay and buy some sticker porn.
There he is. Evo Bolt Glock Barrel AR Fire Control Group. Right there.
There you go. Right there. There it is. Right there. That's what it is.
Seems
and-
to be the recipe for sex right there.
And-
Evo
and when
Bolt,
you're-
Block
and when
Barrel,
you're-
AR Fire Control Group.
And when you're done with buying stickers over there, you can go to our Etsy store and buy from our Out of Battery Live sticker pack. We have a few left. If you buy them this week, you'll have them in a few days, and then there they are.
And
Eastern Front attitude. I like that.
did we sell onto the bandoliers yet?
Bandolers are gone. They were gone before we gave away the last one.
Yeah.
Maybe after
So
SHOT Show,
you
we'll have
missed.
something else for you guys.
You
but,
missed out.
I mean, yeah.
It won't be bandoliers because we just do these girls one time. That's it.
You can't
gotta
say
say-
shit like that, man.
You got to say that before we sell them.
All right,
So
all right.
mark them up.
Before we descend into madness, I'm bringing on the guest. So,
All
for
right.
those of you who don't know, there is a channel and a book, both tied to the man known as the 3D Print General. And in particular, I want to call it the book first because the book, if you don't own this book, you should definitely buy it. It's called 3D Printing Failures. And particularly if you are new to 3D printing, it is a very, very good guide for diagnosing common 3D printer failures and giving you the sort of lexicon you need to ask for further help if it doesn't solve your issues. The channel, he has a main channel called the 3D Print General where he talks about printers and reviews them, and a newer channel called the 3D Pew General where he talks about his journey with printing guns. So we're going to bring him on now. Welcome to the show, dude.
Woo! I'm here. Just so you know, I'm gonna enter that contest just to prevent BitPlum from winning the Bamboo Lab.
Yes!
So I can get my third Bamboo Lab. That's my goal.
Sounds like you're disqualified already. There's been more DQs than there's been contestant entries.
I'm gonna rig it. I'm gonna offer something to the person hosting. So
Don't you dare crush my hopes and dreams.
thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I wanted to sort of ask you, can I hide this? Is this
You
a
can.
banner or a comment?
I got it. It's done.
Okay, thank you. The first thing I sort of wanted to ask you is, my impression is that video you made, I think the title of the video is something like, I like shot 3D printed guns. Did my hands blow up or something like this? Was that actually the first point in time where you were looking into the world of 3D printing firearms?
So technically, I've been following in quotes from the beginning with the Liberator, back like 2013, 2014. You know, I'm really heavily in the libertarian world, so I saw all the stuff Reason was posting and all these different people were posting at the time. And in 2020, I decided I'm gonna like explore this topic. Nobody's exploring it, at least in the 3D printing YouTube sphere. And I was like, I'm gonna print Liberators. I'm gonna shoot them. I'm gonna print Songbirds. And then all of a sudden, I found Control Pew's Twitter account, and I went, oh, I'm so far behind on this stuff. And so I interviewed Control Pew in 2020, and that video actually was my most viewed video until it got taken down, with like 750,000 views with just an interview.
Of course.
And then because of that interview and we made a connection, he invited me to Bear Arms and Bitcoin just about a year later in 2021. And that's that video you're talking about, was Bear Arms and Bitcoin 2021, where I got to test all the guns. And that was the first time I ever shot a 3D printed gun. So
was your heart racing?
no, I maybe, you know, maybe it was dumb of me, but I just was just like, I trust these guys. Like, I think I'm good. So I watched them shoot it, so it must be fine. So
I couldn't see any layer lines in their prints, so I just decided I'd just send it. It's great.
Yeah. Well, it's like literally some of the guns I had saw on their Twitter feeds. I'm like, this is the one I saw on Twitter. I have to shoot it. So
So rewinding in time, walk us through the story of you becoming the 3D print general. Like, how did you get invested in 3D printing originally, and then how did that become your channel?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize it real quick. In like 2014-ish, my best friend and my stepbrother, who know each other because of me, started a company, a 3D print farm company. They needed somebody to be the operations manager, and they didn't have a bunch of money. So I was cheap labor. They hired me to do it. I knew nothing about 3D printing whatsoever. I don't have an engineering background. And there was a lot of stuff that I learned along the way of, oh, this is intuitive to you as an engineer, my best friend, but not intuitive to me at all. And so I decided, let me start making kind of fun videos for their YouTube channel, which are still up. There's like 4 or 5 of them up on their business YouTube channel. Eventually they told me they don't really want these types of videos related to them. So I was like, all right, I'll just make my own channel. And that's honestly where it started, was they didn't want the videos on their YouTube. So I'm like, sure, what the hell? And that's kind of how it started.
So what kind of things do you think are not intuitive to you that was intuitive to your engineer friend?
Honestly, like 95% of the stuff that was intuitive to him was not intuitive to me. So I tell this, I haven't told this story, I don't think, publicly, but I will tell this story as a good example. Like, I am not an engineer, have no background. He told me, oh, I'm kind of sketching. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, your
Yes.
audio's been fine the whole time.
As long as
even
the
though
audio is fine.
you're a robot.
Yeah, they told me, my buddy took a stepper motor, 2 stepper motors, and he said, wire this stepper motor to this. And I had just learned how to solder. What he meant was, this stepper motor is working, and this has good wires. So cut the wires off and wire it to the stepper motor. I wired 2 stepper motors together. And he picked it up and went to the other engineers. That they had like 5 or 6 engineers working there, and was like, look what Sean just did, and held it up. And I literally was just like, oh, that's what I thought you meant. And so I try to address, at least like my book and my video, like, to people who are my type of mindset. If you're an engineer, you probably don't necessarily care about my videos or my book, but I try to write it for somebody who's like in my shoes. This stuff doesn't, like, you've never dealt with any sort of electronics, any sort of this sort of stuff before. How can I word it to make sense for you because it would make sense for me? That's kind of my thought process.
That's the epitome of instructions unclear, dick stuck in ceiling fan.
Yeah.
So, to what extent do you think not being an engineer has been an advantage in the sort of career path you've chosen in becoming the 3D print general?
Yeah, I think huge, because if you want somebody who really knows their stuff and knows their technicals, watch Thomas Sandlatter, watch CNC Kitchen. Like, I watch those guys to learn. I'm very open about that. But I don't know. I feel like so many people who are in the weeds don't realize what the average person is thinking and wants. And so there's a lot of times like this product will come out and there'll be a person who's really good at tinkering and really they're like, oh, I can't tinker this and I can't do anything with it. And my thought process is it works out of the box, and the average person just I don't want to know how to take apart my microwave to make it work. I just want it to work. And I feel like that's honestly, 90% of consumers out there. But the engineering mindset makes people think, oh, everybody thinks like me. They must want to tinker with this. And I don't think that's the case. So
That's Bit's big thing, right? Like he always says he wants to print, like he wants to print guns. He wants to do gunCAD. He doesn't want to do printers.
I don't want to play printers. I want to play guns.
And
Yeah.
I think
better win that Bamboo Lab. So
historically, this has been like a huge problem in 3D printing, right? Like until very recently, I don't think printers have been fundamentally consumer devices. My mom cannot go to the store, buy a 3D printer, and without learning anything, print something effortlessly off of it, right? Do you think a lot of people, I believe, have made the claim to me that, the Bamboo Labs is changing that? Do you think that's true?
So it's in a good step towards that direction. I still don't think, like, my mom would not know what to do with the Bamboo Lab. I completely am open to that, but it's a step in the right direction where I can see a potential future where that becomes more and more the case. It might not ever be the case where my grandma owns one. That's probably not the case,
Right.
but it's I don't know if you follow, like there's AI camera technology now, like Spaghetti Detective or 3DQ Quinley, or I think that's what's called. They thumbs down. Okay. I mean, they're not necessarily working the way they should, but
Precisely.
the idea behind it is really good, where it's like you can analyze the print. Oh, it recognizes over extrusion. It automatically changes your extrusion ratio. And, and the stuff like the Bamboo Lab, their first layer detection is uncomparable. Like, I've never had to mess with the first layer. It always works. And that is a huge barrier to entry to people getting into it. Just leveling the bed, it's 90% of new people's problems. So yes, we're getting in this step by step. We're getting there. We're not there yet, though.
That's like, and I see that too. And you think about it the same way with the 2D printers when they first came on the market, like a dot matrix printer or something. There was only a certain group of people that were even using them or even applying them to their business model or their everyday use, right? And then as that technology got better and those things you got a laser jet printer or something else like that, where it's significantly easier to use, I think that's what will bring it to the market. And I think the Bamboo's, like you were saying, Bamboo Labs is that step in the right direction, but also it's the price margin still. So I think when your Bamboo Labs quality printer only costs $300, then we'll be like very close to the consumer grade market, right?
I
What
completely
inflation
agree.
world do you live in, Justin?
It's funny that you mentioned the first layers too, because I'm in a few beginner 3D printer groups still, and there's almost a weekly thing about like first layer porn and stuff like that. People just getting a good first layer, and it's like, you guys, this is I don't know. It's funny that you mentioned that.
And it's not to be underestimated. Like, I always try to put myself back in the position I was when I started at my old company. And yes, first layer was annoying. Like, you got to like remember what it was like when you first started.
Mhm.
And Yeah,
Wow.
no, and so for instance, at our old work, we used to offer, we'll repair your printer $50 an hour, and we would get people all the time bringing in their printer. I'd look at it and your bed's not level. That was literally, and I spend 2 minutes leveling the bed, and then it's printing fine. And they're like, I could never get that to work. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I got to charge you $50. And that was kind of like the
Minimum 1 hour work.
that was the inspiration behind the first edition of my book back in 2017. Was just like, heck, if the book is a third of the price of what I just charged you to level your bed, that was, yeah.
Oh yeah.
How long were you printing before you got your first Prusa?
I've never owned a Prusa. I've never touched a Prusa.
Still today.
I've never used
This is why you guys are talking about all this bed leveling stuff.
One of the
I've never
most
heard of.
popular 3D
Like-
printer YouTubers never
they
had a Prusa.
they kind of act like I don't exist, and I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not like some big shot, but I have reached out to them many times, not trying to get a free printer, just trying to be like, talk to them. Like, when I came out with one of the editions of my book, I'm like, hey, would you mind checking it out? Maybe if you were able to give me a blurb for the back of the book, I'd be in debt. And they've just ignored. They've never replied to any email ever, and so I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm
Here's
They're
the thing
Europeans
about
anyway.
Prusa. Yeah, about Prusa and that. See, Bit is really in the contest to win a printer because none of his Prusas will print a large enough print area. So I don't know
First
why
of
he's
all-
fighting
first of
for
all,
them in the
before-
first place. So when he
Before
gets
the
third
bamboo
place
came on
and gets the max,
you would tell somebody get a Prusa. If you don't want to mess with playing with a printer, man, you get a Prusa, because once you put it together, or if you buy the assembled kit, I mean, they just run, right? Like, you don't have to do all the bed leveling. They're amazing machines for new people that are not on a budget, right? Like,
You
so
can do that with any cubic Viper though.
yeah, but those aren't. I mean, okay, so but
He's
those
getting
are
ready to.
newer
He's getting
printers
ready
as
to.
well. They are newer printers as well. The Anycubics haven't been around forever. I've had both my Prusas for like 3 years, I think, almost going on, right? And it wasn't that way. Bamboo came out, Vorons come out. I mean, Prusa's gonna have to do something special. I don't even think the XL is gonna be like competing with the Bamboo Labs for what it can do.
Honestly, yeah, I agree with that assessment. I would always, even though I personally don't use a Prusa and never used one, in my book, if you read all my editions, I'll say, if I trust people's opinions, if you want a printer that works and you're not on a budget, then you got Prusa. But now it's like, it's hard to say that even now, even though I've never used one, it's been out for 5 years, and there's so many people who have passed them for the price. I mean, you can get that P1P by Bamboo Lab for the price of a kit Prusa, where this still takes you 8 hours to put together. So yeah, the XL could have been something big if they came out with it a year ago.
Right.
Now it's like it's twice if you want to get a bunch of tool heads, it's coming up on $3,000. I mean,
yeah, all those guys.
You
that
only need
pre-ordered
one
the
tool head
XL,
because you're only
cancel.
printing nylon.
Ain't nobody got the money to be prototyping in nylon.
So printers are in this weird space right now where I see sort of like three distinct bodies of people using the printers. There are people who are like actively developing some piece of technology or product, and so they actually need to make prototypes quickly, right? Like this is very fundamentally what printers were designed for. And then there's the like firearms people who, for various reasons want to make unserialized firearms and push the tech forward. To a lesser extent, there are the like people who are into printing for the act of printing. And the last group is the group that I'm just like very uncertain about, which is the normal everyday people who are printing like Baby Yoda and like AA battery holders.
Hey, nothing wrong
What?
with AA battery holders.
Well, the thing is, you can only print so many of them, and I don't think you can like wash out the cost of your fucking Voron 2.4 in AA battery printers. I mean,
If you're not printing
AA
guns,
battery
you're
holders.
fucking polluting the planet with plastic debris.
Did you Did you mention the cosplayers? Because I think that's a large group.
Okay, so I do think that's like a valid example of the people who are like rapidly prototyping something on some level. They aren't doing tech, but they're doing sort of actual useful designs that play into something. So my question here is, where is the end consumer story? And this is, a speculative question that you might not have thought about or have any answer to. But 10 years from now, do you expect normal consumers to be printing more often than they do today? And if so, what the fuck are they printing?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with what you were saying. It's so weird for me looking back. So I watched a Reno May short where he was showing like, oh, you buy a $200 Ender printer and you print these and you wouldn't buy it for $1 at the dollar store. Why aren't you printing guns? And ever since I got into this hobby, I'm like, what the hell was I printing before? And I do agree with that assessment. There are people who are maybe into art, like if they want to sculpt something and paint it. There are a lot of people who like painting things, but that's like, even then you can't justify a Voron for that. But yeah, there you go. Was that a
You're printing
Obama?
You're printing these, right? Yeah, this is what you're printing.
So at my old work, we actually did, useful things. Like most of the stuff we printed were boring. It was electronic enclosures. This guy needs 200 units of something that he's testing the market, and he needs something to hold his electronics inside of it properly. That's completely valid. That makes sense. I could be wrong, but I don't see the average person I don't see a 3D printer in everybody's house in the future. What I see is more decentralized manufacturing, where rather than buying a part that needs to be shipped over from China, there are a ton of little factories like my old company that are able to, oh, you're in San Diego, I'm in San Diego. The order comes to me, I make it on the spot, ship it right to you, save out on a ton of shipping stuff overseas and all that sort of stuff. That's more where I kind of see it going. But yeah, the average consumer, to pay off the printer, you're going to need to print a lot of washer knobs. It's not really worth it, I think.
So we're not going to have no Fifth Element printer in the kitchen on the cabinet. Your trash compactor turns into your tennis shoes and shit.
Who the hell knows? I'm the worst at predicting the future, absolute worst. But that's not where I necessarily see it going.
That's one of the things.
To do that too.
Yeah, that's one of the things I thought that, and that's one of the questions I want to ask. Like especially the bigger manufacturers, like at SHOT Show and places like that. Like, how do you see this technology taking over, or the industry adjusting to it? Like you said, I think that the print farm type thing in different localities is 100% the way to go. Just because of like there's so much like e-commerce right now, so the shipping industry's just exploded over the past like 10 years. Like Amazon for themselves, that they have their own logistics company now, and now if you're not having to move these products as much because you can literally just send a file and produce on site, you're going to save a ton of money. I mean, that's just by that self, just that little piece there.
I think particularly Amazon may be one of these companies that just dominates everything, and they have a location. They already have locations in like almost every city, and they could be the ones that, rather than having to ship between each place, if it's a basic part, they'll probably work with manufacturers like washing machines and dishwashers and all this stuff, and you need one replacement part for your thing. They just make it in-house, 20 miles from you and send it right to you. That's
all this DIY talk is angering the Chinese.
So I will say, I think that's where you definitely have something, because not everyone wants to spend $200 or even $100 on a printer and have to learn how to slice and tune and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say daily, but at least multiple times a week, I get someone who's like, hey, you're into 3D printing. Can you get this blah, 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 blah for me? And I'm like, find it on Thingiverse or Cults. Send it to me. I'll let you know. I'm like, just this week, a guy needed some sort of thing to develop Polaroids. Like, I don't know. Like, you take the photo, you set it on there and let it go so it doesn't get the waves and stuff. I don't know. But, like, sure, yeah, I can do that. But, like, otherwise, the ones that he was going to get from wherever he was looking at were, like, $25 each. I'm like, bro, like, you're talking about, like, a buck in plastic.
There are times when it is economical. You know, I need 20 of something and they're charging $20 each. I might as well just buy a printer and print it myself for, you know, cents each. There are times like that for sure. It's just hard for me to envision it. Printers really need to get automated to the point of like a 2D printer or a microwave for the average person to even think of diving into this. Because like you said, slicers are the number one. Like if you all of a sudden somebody turns on Cura and they're just like, what the hell is all this? So yeah, it's hard for me to
GPT.
That'll be that AI integration. So when our AI gets enough where now I have this object file, which is okay, an object file is the same as your Word document at that point then. And I think that's enough, user-friendly enough where if it's an object file, you spin it around and you can just put the object file right into the printer and the slicing step is automated, then that's where you're at. I think that has to be some kind of thing there where you'll get all consumers will be able to utilize then without that barrier to entry of needing to know slicing and, you know, setup
Material.
of the material or whatever.
Once
So
we
sounds
get
like cryptocurrency 2017.
yeah.
It'll be
Well, I feel-
mainstream soon as grandma can use it.
To the moon.
You know, once we get to that point, though, we're gonna have to worry about like the digital rights management thing, where it's just like literally like, are you allowed to print this file? You know, it could get to that. If we're to the point where you're describing, Justin, then it's like,
Would you download a car? Yes. Yeah, I would download a car.
Spaghetti Detective will
Yep.
narc you out if you print Yankee Doodle.
So that's a good transition. We talked about how maybe the industry sees our technology, and I think General, you might be best to speak on this. How does the technology see the gunCAD community? Because you deal with a lot of these printer companies and stuff. Do they ever bring that up? I know Polymaker's a huge supporter, right? Somewhat openly, and I know there's a couple of companies that we've talked to that are not as open. But how do you kind of see that coming from both sides?
yeah. So to be honest, every company I've dealt with has been really cool. So for instance, Bamboo Lab, I'll say this here. I'm assuming they're probably not watching, but they told me, we'll send you this printer, but you can't print any guns for the review video. They said if you use it otherwise, that's fine, but just not for the review video. And then, you know, for instance, like eSun reached out to me and we're like, we'd love to see you test this resin, you know, and you know what I do. So I have not had any companies other than, I guess, Prusa. I mean, that might be an example, but the companies themselves have been very nice to me. It seems to be content creators. A few of them have kind of blacklisted me, but the companies themselves, even if they're based, like most of these companies are in China, and they're just like, they're quietly cool about it, but they don't want to openly say anything. Like, for instance, there's a company called Qidi, QIDI. They sent me a few printers. Anybody who sends me a printer at this point knows what I do. So it's, you know, but on their website, I think it might still be up there today on their Quiddy, what was it called? The XCF Pro. If anybody ever looked this up, they have on their website a AR-15 lower receiver.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that.
Hang on, they're a Chinese company.
And they're a Chinese
Party
company.
rock,
Yeah,
dude.
it's airsoft for sure. Like
No, that's,
you know,
I've seen that show up on. I've seen screenshots.
CCCP, right?
It's on Amazon.
There's some Amazon
filaments.
filament that has AR lowers in the pictures.
Yeah,
of
so
it.
I have never dealt with a company who's either been negative or told me, or just like, we won't work with you.
That's
so-
because all the people printing the little print in place dragons, they're like 1% of printers, and everyone
Hey.
knows that guncatters are like 90% of the filament business.
Gotta stop
Let's
you
just
right
stop
there.
beating around the bush here.
I love print and place stuff. I think it's so fucking cool.
So
I saw
do
this
wanna point out
dragon thing
how-
that pulls up and you sit it down. It's so cool.
I do want to point out how generally Chinese people and citizens generally are pretty based.
Yeah.
The government, however, not so much. So when you deal with the people who are running independent companies, they're like, fuck yeah, guns. No, we don't like. Fuck yeah, though. Like,
Well, for instance, Polymaker is a great example. They're very much we can't do it. You know, we're not doing anything openly about guns. We just, if you build something cool with our material, we'll share it. We don't care what it is as long as you're abiding by local laws.
Yep.
But and they work with people who do not like me. So they are on both sides. Like they're not just 100% pro guns. They are. If you build something cool, we'll give you filament. I know a few people who they sponsor who do not like me, and but they have gotten a ton of crap for working with me. I've been sent some direct messages. It's been sent to their HR department, like for working with me, and they've held strong. So it's very cool.
another
So
reason
I
to buy
think-
from them.
a big counterpoint to the companies are like, if not based, then chill, is maker spaces. And every maker space I've interacted with has been very, very unchill about like they include very specific things in the rules. Like if you use any of our things to produce any part that touches a firearm, you will be ejected and we're keeping your membership fee.
I
Even
will
the
s-
maker spaces in the U.S. military branches are also very anti-making gun parts and gun stuff.
They just want you to print a print
mind
dragon.
mind blowing.
Doesn't this have to do with the whatever rules the ATF decided to come up with for the build parties, though? Since people were coming over all to one spot, they're milling out all these 80% AR receivers. So they made some rules about, I don't know what they are. I'd have to look it
Tool
up to
sharing.
be more informed. But yeah, I think
So
that's what it is.
I think that would be more plausible if they're like, you cannot print a firearm. But I've seen probably 3 different sets of makerspace rules that prohibited anything that could be used for a weapon.
Oh,
You can't print the pistol grip, guys. You can't.
Right.
This
think
could
of the
kill
children,
someone.
handle.
Justin.
It could kill
Think
the
of the
children.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
think
paintbrush handle.
Yeah, so
Paintbrush
it's funny.
handle.
One of my videos got demonetized only because it had a pistol grip. Like I didn't show any guns at all, and it just
God
because it
damn
had a
it,
pistol
Justin.
grip. But I feel like the average makerspace person is more like the average creator in this industry. They're not necessarily running businesses that they see the market, but because like I said, there are quite a few. I'm not naming names at all. There were a few creators who were very friendly with me, and I started doing this. And ever since I started doing it, they stopped following me, stopped talking to me, and a few of them even blocked me. But so I think the average person like that makerspace is somebody's not running a business and not seeing where the market is, because I really think I don't know the numbers. I haven't talked to Polymaker about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if a very large percentage of their filament sales are to people in our industry. So
Here's why I think that is. I think the people who print in places and baby Yodas and AA battery holders run out of ideas and then sell their printer on Craigslist. The only
Ken
people who are
Redchick.
going through roll after roll after roll of filament are people who are trying and failing to print thump and grinds. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
If
so
you
you
want
got content creators who have the big wall of filament behind them, right? But then realistically, if I have a big wall of filament behind me, it's because I don't print with that shit, and I'm not.
It's
gonna
because
use
your
it.
printer broke. That's why. Because
Yeah,
your printer
It's
broke.
just- it's up there because I'm not printing in it. If it was good, I wouldn't have any left.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
empty rolls of spool.
yeah. I think filament's main sale, filament companies like Polymaker, their main sales are to print farms because there's quite a lot of them still, and then on top of that, I wouldn't be surprised if we're number 2, because it's like we're the only people who are consistently printing, and it's not for a business, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with that print farm statement, because if you go on Etsy, you can just scroll through Etsy and there's just all kinds of like little knickknacks and things that you would want. It's like, so for instance, my sister-in-law, for Christmas, she wanted a toothbrush holder that looked like a smiley face. Well, you can buy one on an Etsy store for like $20 or $15 or something. I'm like, or I can just print one for like 50 cents of filament, and right, same kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%.
So on the topic of thinking of the sea turtles, when I first got into 3D printing many moons ago, I was like very excited about the prospect of recycling some of the failed prints, because back in the day printers weren't very good and I was getting a lot of failures. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna save up all my prints in bags. And at the time I lived in a place that had fairly good recycling, and so
Alaska?
I called I lived in Alaska, and I called the recycling for the city and was like, hey, what plastics can you recycle? Like, in theory, this number is supported. Can you actually recycle PLA or ABS? And the answer is, of course, no, right? Like, nowhere can recycle these plastics. And so I guess my question is, do you think in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we will see an economical system come into place where people are actually recycling plastics produced by 3D printing?
I think recycling in general, a lot of things that are recycled now aren't economical, and if they're not economical, that means you're using more energy to produce new products than using more energy to recycle than to produce new products. And I think that's true for the vast majority of plastics, regardless of if they're 3D printed. Basically you will know if a product is economically recyclable if they'll pay you for it. So like, aluminum cans, you get paid 5 cents a can or whatever it is, because you save energy by recycling aluminum instead of producing new aluminum cans. And I mean, I don't know how the process works, but plastic, I feel like, is a big scam where you feel good by putting it in the recycling bin.
Right.
Doesn't matter what it is. It's not 3D printed, whatever. You feel good by putting it in the can, but at the end of the day, they use so much gasoline to, transport it and sort it. And then at the end of the day, you can only use 10% of it or whatever. And so I think more likely for 3D printing would be a machine that you can own that turns it into new spools of filament, like for PET that currently exists. Well, you could take old plastic bottles and turn them into spools of PETG. And it's not really, they're kind of gimmicks right now, but the idea behind it, could be something in the future. But at the same time, after it's already been extruded, you've kind of changed the chemical properties of the material. So it might not be as simple as just changing it back into a strand of filament. But yeah, I don't really see a future in plastics in general where it could be recycled properly.
It's that scarcity thing. Yeah, it's a scarcity thing where plastics are from our fossil fuels that aren't, not from fossils at all. That any oil-based or petroleum-based product, right? Who knows when or if there's an end to it, which I doubt there is.
Is oil a fossil fuel anymore? I don't think it's a fossil fuel.
It's not. It's not. I mean, if it is,
I'm pretty sure it's not.
If
I think petroleum is abiotic, and it's not a fossil.
No,
okay.
It was
all right. No tinfoil hats today. I'm not doing this right.
Close the tinfoil area right there.
Dude, I'm drinking this
and the
whiskey.
CIA didn't kill JFK. Okay.
So I just looked it up. As of 2022, only 5 to 6% of the 46 million tons of plastic waste are generally recycled.
Yeah,
so out of all the stuff that's put in there,
That's after
Dude, the
you know
ocean is
thousands
deep.
of
We
employees.
ain't
have-
even running out of room. Keep
Yeah,
So-
dumping that shit.
One thing I remember, so my mom was a little bit more left leaning, my dad is a little bit more right. So with my mom, she's always like, make sure you check the numbers on the bottom. And when I moved to another city, that other city didn't take those certain numbers. So I'm like, okay, well then what the fuck is the point of the numbers? The numbers on the bottom of your plastic are not the recycle code. They're just a code that looks like the recycle code with the number of whatever resin it is. So you have to actually call your city recycling if you move or you don't know, and they'll tell you what ones they can do, and it's not the same in every city. So yeah, your mention of being largely a scam, kind of.
Well, the small city that I live in now, there is no recycling. We have one bin. It's just one bin. And I literally called. I'm like, because I'm used to living in Southern California for, you know, however many years. And I called. I'm like, do you guys do recycling? Like, no, if you want to recycle, you could drive it to the fire department Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I mean, we don't even do recycling where I am. But, you know, it only makes sense for particular products. I think aluminum makes sense. But then even then, like cardboard doesn't make sense to me because it's biodegradable. And yeah, most of recycling is very confusing to me.
So that begs the question: is the next step, the next ecological step, I guess, would be metal printing, like SLM or SLS style metal printing? How far away do you think that is, that technology, to your prosumer, I guess?
So I'm openly not knowledgeable on metal printing, DMLS. I can't remember what the abbreviation is, but so I've spoken to people who are, for instance, even like Ivan the Troll is very knowledgeable on this stuff, and he doesn't think that it is a consumer item ever, just because of the process that's required to do it. So whenever you say if something's impossible, you're going to be proven wrong. But I'm not knowledgeable enough to actually speak on it.
Sure.
I think the big concerning thing with like metal sintering processes is like they produce a lot of very, very harmful things as byproducts, and the average consumer or hobbyist is frankly ill-equipped to deal with the risks of that. Like nylon and resins are bad enough as it is. I'm not sure we need people breathing in like superheated metal gases on accident. So, you know, it'll be a while before I think it's de-risked enough that it's even plausible.
Yeah, then we'll meet again in 3 years and we'll all eat our words. But
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
that's my current thought process.
Exactly. Yeah. Ron's got it on the money. Even if you don't have it heated up, even in the powder state, breathing in powdered metal, dude, I'm praying for you. If
Sounds
you do that.
very
Your
base.
life is
Sounds
over.
very
I mean, we're getting to the point where SLS powdered nylon is coming to user. I mean, it's very niche at the moment, but
You can get the kits for $6,000.
that's what I'm saying. I feel like that's the next logical step. I feel like we will eventually get to metal printing, though it may not be soon. Unfortunately,
There have been attempts to be with like welders on CNCs, although it's absolutely terrible. But there's the attempt.
there needs to be a
saw
large technological jump for us to be able to get that into the home.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is sort of on the topic of this like boutique manufacturing thing we were talking about earlier, I think those services where you print something in like metal powder in a plastic, sort of saturated in plastic from a traditional 3D printer and then send it in is very exciting. How you deal with like the sort of anisotropic properties of it is an open question, but I do think it is a cool direction for metal printing. Have you done any sort of send away boutique manufacturing things, Sean?
No, I'm very much FDM centric on my knowledge here. Like I even say SLA I've dealt with quite a lot, but I very open that I'm not an expert. Oh, look at that. Oh, you're eating, is that healthy food? Look at you. I'm very unknowledgeable on all the other forms of 3D printing. I would have to research it before I even was able to comment properly. Yeah, no, and I've never done a send away. Sorry. No, I've so like a few of the companies I've worked with actually offer metal printing. Like I've worked with what is it called? JLC PCB. And honestly, if you look at their website, they're clearly not paying me for this. I've worked with them like twice. Their prices are insanely low, and I don't know how they offer them that low. Like much less than we offered at our old company for every type of 3D printing process possible, including metal. And you can get a part, I think, like this big for $50 out of metal, which is not expensive. If you're like you have a classic car that needs a specific part that needs to be replaced, that's where that makes sense to me. But
yeah, I think that whole community, that the like classic car community or other places where you need this piece that's not manufactured anymore because the demand just isn't there, and you need like this one-off thing. I think that's a huge. I think that community actually is getting larger and larger with the way the consumerism is now, where we no longer going to make this old stuff, but there's this nostalgia and there's people that want to like deal with the old stuff still. So then they need that outlet. And I think that's where some of that people like that will just thrive very much so.
Another side of this coin, I think, is the trend of, Zoomers going into the trades, and in particular into machining, is like it's on the decline, right? So boutique machine shops are also declining, and the ability of people to do like skilled subtractive manufacturing work, you got to replace it somewhere. So non-skilled or like not skilled in the same way work with additive manufacturing with metals and plastics, I think probably is going to fill a very large part of this role. What are you guys smiling about over there?
You keep getting shorter. Your camera
Just laughing at your camera.
The top of your
it's
head.
my camera.
You just keep shrinking in your chair. It's okay.
Oh, I was like
down
leaning
here
back.
like fucking this.
General, I got a question for you. So you've worked with a vast range of companies. Do you have a like surprisingly good company that you didn't expect to work well with, and on the contrary, and I'm sure you won't name any names, like just a horror story of a company to deal with when you're going through
Or
like
will
reviews
you?
or anything?
No,
Or if you want to.
That's a great question. There are a few companies that are super. There have been a few companies that have been super strict with my with my reviews. So I'm always like, I have to be. The only thing I say is I have to be honest in my review. So if they say I'd like to see the video beforehand, I'm okay with that, because I say only if you change something I got factually incorrect. If you try to change my opinion, I won't do it. And so, for instance, there's a couple companies like Elegoo. Whether or not they make great printers is a different topic. I have bagged on a couple of their machines, or like said, like, I hate SLA printing. SLA printing is the worst. And they're like, thanks for the review. It was great. And so that's great. And then let me think. There was one company that was really bad. God, I don't even remember their name now. They were a 3-in-1 printer. So if you were to look on my YouTube channel and find them, not Snapmaker, but there was another company. So Snapmaker has been fine. They've been fine with working with me, but there was another company that made a printer similar to the Snapmaker.
Shapeoko.
That doesn't sound right. Oh, I don't even know what you said. Sorry. It's a 3-in-1 printer, and I literally just kept saying, my whole review, I was like, I keep getting clogs. And they reached out to me saying, we'll pay you $500 to take the video down. And I said, no. Like, and at the time, I was really broke. So I was like, I kind of need this, but I'm not going to do that. And the guy who I was talking to left a comment on the video. My contact at the company left a comment on the video saying, I don't know what this guy's talking about. Mine's worked great. You know,
That's actually very funny.
yeah. But in general, most of the companies have been really good to work with. There's been a couple who have tried to change my opinion. I can't remember off the top of my head. They were like, but can you talk about how great this is? And I'm like, no, I can't. And they're like, all right. And they knew the deal and they said, okay. Yeah, I think if you were able to find a 3-in-1 printer that's not Snapmaker on my channel, that would be it. I'll try to actually look it up while we're talking.
I'm sure the chat's going to go rush.
So that's the thing, right? So like Elegoo would be some company that you want to continue working with, right? Even though you might not like their SLA, because the customer service and the way they're handling the criticism is above and beyond, right? Whereas other companies, like, they're gonna literally try to buy you off or try to give away stuff to make themselves look better, where they're not gonna handle this criticism.
Well,
all the companies in gunCAD can handle criticism well, and you know it, Justin.
I've had quite a few companies offer me money for a review, and I have always turned that down. Dang, I can't even find it. I guess I didn't title it 3-in-1. So
he removed it for $500.
There's $500 in the account right now.
It's weird how I have so many bamboo printers.
So not bamboo. Other companies have offered me money for a review, and I will literally say, I appreciate that, but no, I can't take that. I'll just give you an honest review if you're okay with that. And so, yeah, I just feel like I've also kind of feel like now that I've gotten more in the weeds, a lot of these printer reviews are actually paid, but they don't say it. What they do is, I think it's kind of a fishy thing that some of the creators are doing, where they'll put a sponsored ad in the video, and then they'll say this video is sponsored. You know, and so they're following the law, but they're not saying that the printer company itself also sponsored this review. So they'll be like, oh, you know, this video is sponsored by this company that's we're talking about. And then they check the box on YouTube where it says this video has paid promotion, and nobody questions it. But I'm starting to think this because I've been in the weeds and I've seen, like, I'm not naming any names, but some channels are like, oh, I'll come to your facility and I'll check it out for $10,000. And then I'm just like, wait, that's going on? Like, so I have never accepted money from somebody who's in a 3D printer company that I'm actually reviewing. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case with all reviewers.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it where you've reviewed something, it was kind of subpar, but you see somebody else reviewing it and they're like, this thing's 10 out of 10 mint, and you're like, man, they probably got paid off?
So honestly, I don't watch a ton of like particularly review videos. I really don't watch those. So I can't say for sure. I think I've gotten a decent amount of heat because my Bamboo Lab video did so well in views, and a lot of people have had negative things to say about them, and they think that I'm paid off. And I'm just like, I mean, honestly, I like the printer, so I don't know what else to say. But no, I can't think of, other than maybe like Prusa, where it's like some people with Prusas to this day, creators are like, this is the best printer ever made. And I'd be fine with that 3 years ago or 2 years ago, but it's like, you're saying that right now. It makes me
not today. We're not saying that anymore today. Stop saying that like 4 months ago. I promise.
Any bamboo group, and you'll see those Prusa people.
Yeah, it's like, it kind of makes me want to put that tinfoil hat on, where it's just like, what is going on? Like, I agree, it was a great printer, and it's still a great printer, but for the price, it's like, how can you say this is the best one? I just don't understand.
Do you think most of the views from your bamboo video came from the community itself, the gunCAD community? Because I know when I saw you had a video up about the bamboo, to hear it from another guy who prints guns on kind of his thoughts and opinions on it with your like set of skills was very insightful versus just the average print and place dragon or AA battery holder kind of guy.
I do believe I have a certain amount of people that in this community that will watch me before someone else, because just like Polymaker, they'll buy Polymaker before someone else, regardless of if the product is the best. It's just we want to support people who support us. But that video in particular has way more views than my average video. So I would have to think that it was just kind of the YouTube algorithm picking it up based on my title and the thumbnail and the fact that when it came out, there was only like 2 other videos at the time. So I was one of the first people to release a Bamboo Lab review, and mine was like 3 times as long as their videos, like trying to really look at everything wrong and everything good with the video, with the printer. So I think it was just kind of more timing and the title and all that sort of stuff.
How many 3D printers do you have today?
I've given away far more than I currently own. I 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I think I have 15 FDM printers and then 3 SLA printers, but I have given away probably close to 40 printers. On my Twitter at one point. So my fiance absolutely hates it. I have taken over our guest bedroom, where like if somebody wants to spend the night, I have to clear out the 6 printers that are in there every time. And so I on my Twitter once before, I was like, hey, if you live in Central Texas, email me here. I'll give you a free printer. And I gave away like 12 printers that day. And then there's a few people like Chairman Juan and P80 Ralph and AG Cast who all live within, an hour of me. And I've given them far more than the average person. But yeah, I tend to give away a lot.
That's awesome.
How do you decide which ones to give away and which ones to keep?
The ones I'm not using. So it's like, so I still to this day have saved my 2 belt printers, and I've used them maybe once in the last year. I just keep thinking, if I ever need to print something this long or, super long, hey, look at that AGCast. I'm going to be happy I saved them, but I never use them. Other than those 2, every printer I have right now has some sort of use case to it, where it's like, I print ABS on this printer. I print, I have an IDEX. That's the one I print my IDEX prints on. And I have a use case for each one of the printers. Otherwise, it gets too crazy. Like I was mentioning before the stream, I get offered like 5 printers a week, but 4 out of 5 of them are Ender 3 clones, and there's nothing to say about them at this point. So I just decline them. So, but if I accept every printer that was offered, it's like, you guys think like, oh, how awesome is it? You get free printers, and it is awesome, but a $200 printer, I spend, 10 plus hours reviewing a printer. And if you value your time, you can't be just keep accepting like, oh, I get $200 printer for free and 5,000 people watch it. It's like, it's not worth it. So
when I told you this before the show, but in order to dunk on BitPlum, I'm going to say it again. After you said the thing about how you get, give away like 5 printers or turn down 5 printers a week or whatever it was, BitPlum repeatedly, like an average of once a week, is like, we should start reviewing printers, bro.
Yeah, and as oh, you're muted, I think. I didn't hear you, BitPlum.
No, is this mouthful of something?
I said free shit.
Yeah. So it's free in the sense, if you want to do a detailed review, I mean, just editing alone takes me 4 or 5 hours, and then that's not including the printing. And unless the video gets 50,000 views, it's like, at the end of the day, if I value my time at even like $15 an hour, I lost money on this trade. Because on top of that, you can't sell a used printer for the retail price. And I'm sure many of you have experienced this. If you want to sell a used printer, you're getting 50% the price if you're lucky. And so guns, I would keep saying, is the better way to go. where if you get sent a gun to review or gun parts even, they take up less space. You can have a closet full of 120 of them, and you can sell them for just about the retail price. That's the way to go. Printers, it's like they take up so much space, and you get 50% of the retail price if you were to sell them.
So do you have a standard protocol for how you do testing for a printer you're sent?
Yeah, I've kind of put it down to a science at this point where I kind of have a step-by-step thing. I have a notepad open whenever I'm reviewing a printer. I have notepad sticky notes on my computer for each printer I'm reviewing, and every time there's a note, I'll jot it down. But yeah, I mean, it's just the general unboxing. How hard was it to get set up? How good was the how good was the I kind of have it set up where I have these like 3 different things I always print: a benchy, a torture toaster, and then I try to print some other unique material on it. And yeah, it's kind of down to a science. Each printer is a little unique, but in general, yeah, I kind of have it down a little bit.
Do you have a favorite printer?
Yeah, and it's like people think I'm a shill, but it's Bamboo Lab. It's the I'm always honest. My X1 Carbon has given me a few issues recently, but it's my go-to. So one of the main things that happened to me recently on the X1 Carbon was the bed cable that goes from the build plate to the board was rubbed. It stopped heat, like it stopped registering the heat, like the thermistor wasn't working. And what ended up happening was it's my go-to printer, so I probably put 1,000, 2,000 hours on it. After doing so many ups and downs of Z-hops and going up and down, the bed cable was resting on the inside of the frame, and so it was rubbing nonstop. And I finally found it, and it was worn to the point where the wire was frayed. I literally took it apart, cut the wire, the 2 sides, soldered them back together, worked fine. But I mentioned that to Bamboo Lab. They said, "Oh, we changed that after, I had a pre-production unit. It's not like that on the final units." And then after that, I've had a few other random, build plate sticking errors because of the build plate sticky sheet not working right. But in general, if I need something done, it goes on the Bamboo Lab, 100%.
So with the
feel that.
Bamboo Labs, would you mind clearing up a little bit of what people have been worrying about? I've gotten probably more messages in the last 24 hours about the thermal runaway issue. Do you know much about that, or could you tell everyone like kind of what the whole story is on that and how it's not that big of a deal, but still kind of a big deal?
I literally read it in a tweet last night, so I have kind of not been paying attention, but I read about it last night in a Twitter thread, I think from Filament Frenzy, or no, Nero 3D. I know nothing about it other than what I read. The one thing I can say is that they have been more responsive to the community than any other company I've dealt with. So that very well could be a serious problem. I'm not writing it off. That just like their security issues were, where they were saying how it was over, somebody might be able to hack your printer. That was a serious issue. They handled it within like 12 hours and were instantly communicating with the public, saying, "We're sorry, we messed up, we're fixing it." So I don't know about this particular issue, but after getting to know at least my one contact, I know one guy at Bamboo Lab, and I can say from my own point of view, he's a really good guy. I think that they will deal with whatever issue. Maybe it should have been dealt with before the printer came out. I'm not sure, but at least they'll address it and will talk to people, unlike Creality, where people will say an issue and you'll never get an issue. So, I mean, a response. So I don't know. It could be a serious issue. It could have been something they should have dealt with, but I'm confident that they will publicly deal with it. Let's put it that way.
So they have actually posted their own tweet with a blog that they posted stating how there is thermal runaway detection. However, it's set to 3 minutes. So they're actually going to be pushing another firmware update to make it a lot lower than that, because the public, myself, I'm like, Well, that's still terrible because PLA will ignite within a minute if it's at 500 degrees or 400 degrees or something like that. So, but they're going to be reducing it from the 3-minute mark down to something less than a minute, is what they said. They didn't clarify where, but
And at least you got a response. And the guy
Bingo.
himself. So this is not my contact, but the guy who runs the company is called Dr. Tao, and he's messaged me a couple times. But every time I see him, that's him who's writing the blog. That's him who is he is standing behind his product. Where he used to work for DJI drones, and I don't know. I like the fact they stand behind their product and are very. We messed up. We're sorry. That gives me points in their book, way above any of these other companies that just ignore it.
yeah, it's a feature, not a bug. No, it's fire.
It warms your house too.
So I saw a few people in the comments, Doge because 2A, talking about the closed nature of the Bamboo Labs printers. And, looking at old-fashioned like paper printers, an eternal problem with them is that they are closed source and you just get proprietary bullshit with them time and time again. And it's been literally decades of suffering with these pieces of shit, and it doesn't get any better, right? And 3D printing historically has not had this problem because very, very early on in consumer available 3D printers, they became fundamentally open source. Do you see that continuing?
Yeah, I'm not as big of a proponent of open source as many other people are. I think that to see proper advancements, some people need some sort of financial incentive. But the benefit, the good thing about Bamboo Lab is the two things that I think are most important to keep open source are open source. The slicer, because slicers are a huge deal. Like we have no idea what advancements may come in slicers. Literally non-planar printing where it doesn't need to, move up. It can move angled, and there's so many things we can't even think of in the slicer realm. And then materials are not closed source with Bamboo Lab. You can use any material you want. So those are the two most important to me. The one that's a little concerning is their hardware is closed source, but I understand it in a business sense. Luckily, they're currently pricing their hardware replacement parts really cheap, like cheaper than open source alternatives of other companies. So that's a good thing, but they could change that. You never know. And then their firmware is closed source. And I think that's a little less important because it's particular to their machine. A lot of people in the open source community might disagree with me on that, but I'm not as gung-ho about open source. It's just like, if you want to see advancements in this, we're tinkerers. This is going back to my previous point where we like to play with stuff and improve it and make it better and unique. But the average person does not care about that. And if we want to see, huge explosions in advancement, we're probably going to see a lot of closed source stuff. But the important thing, the slicer and the filament, at least those two are not closed source.
So I think that's a good, solid claim. What do you think about what we'll maybe call the John Deere and Apple problem, which is once you allow these motherfuckers to start doing closed source hardware and closed source firmware, you eventually end up not being legally allowed to tinker.
Yeah. So I just said I'm against open. I'm not necessarily pro open source. I'm in a very unique camp that I'm not pro open or closed. I think the moment you get the government involved, it's a bad thing. And so I'm promoting trade secrets. So if you have something that you don't want other people to copy, you keep it to yourself and you make the best product possible and you promote it. If somebody figures out how to reverse engineer it, that's on them. And so but I'm living in a fantasy world that doesn't exist. But in general, I'm against open and I'm against closed because both require the government to enforce it. If I'm at my house and I buy a product and I want to take it apart and figure out how it works and put it back together and sell it, I think that should be allowed. So yeah, I do see the problems with both sides, you know, especially when it comes to like patent trolls and all that stuff. I'm against patents. I'm very much against patents. So I'm against open source and I'm against patents. So if you're the type of open source where you're like, hey, use our open source to make a product, sell it, and you don't have to share what you did to the community, I'm actually pro that, because I think that allows for the most innovation. And I personally believe that if you make the best product, people are going to, you're still going to dominate the market share, even if there's copycats out there, because people trust you to have quality assurance and that you're making what you said you're making. But
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it'd
I
be
think the
hard to put
consumer.
us-
Go ahead.
I think it'd be hard to put 3D printing back into a closed system because like 2D printing started as closed source. It started like that way back when. And now even computers like laptops are starting to become somewhat open where you can swap parts and upgrade parts and things like that. Like laptops specifically is what I'm thinking of. So I think it'd be really hard to put them back into a box because there's always going to be a Creality or a Anycubic to just be like, no, you can buy whatever you want off China, Alibaba, or whatever, and just
yeah, and it's also very hard to come up with something unique to closed source that isn't already open. So if you want to come out with your own slicer, I mean, you got to make this from scratch, and you can't be copying Prusa, Cura, you know, all of these different ones that already exist and are open source. So yes, it has been very. We might be so far into it that it's going to be extremely hard to even close source certain aspects of it.
And I think also, like we kind of hit on a little bit, that the consumer market will actually drive that decision of the companies making it. Like, so if the consumer wants to be able to change something, you either stop buying it from that company and then they'll take that hit, or it won't matter because the consumer will still buy it from them. And then sorry about your luck if you're that smaller group now that wants everything open source. But if the majority of the consumers don't care about that piece of it, it's not gonna happen. But exactly the opposite way, if they do care about it, it will happen, because they'll go and find it by somebody else who is willing to be open source. And eventually, whatever that thing is, that special sauce that they have, someone's gonna figure it out. I mean, look at the 3D print community, and we'll say, for instance, Strike Industries. Strike Industries doesn't produce a product, doesn't have a product out for more than a month before there's also already a 3D printed copy of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, I'm looking at Because 2A's comment of saying that, you know, closed source basically means where Bamboo launches a new printer, bam, no more upgrades for last year's model. And I think that's where people like myself hold, you know, I don't want to say I hold power, but people like myself and reviewers hold some sort of power where we say we don't like what this company is doing. And so that's more of a free market approach to it, where I'd be like, hey, Bamboo Lab is screwing you over right now. Don't buy their printer. You know, it might not work perfectly, but at least that's where I would come in and say, you know, I might like my contact at Bamboo Lab, but I don't like what they're doing. You guys, this is going in the wrong direction. We shouldn't be supporting them.
It's this thing right here, right? This is the exact thing that we're talking about. This is a Gen 1 iPad mini that I pulled out of my drawer the other day, and I just pulled up, tried to install any software on it at all, and you literally cannot install any new software on it. So it's basically worthless. There's some workarounds. It's super difficult, but there's some workarounds. But it's the same concept, right? Yeah. And this is the same thing Apple was doing. And guess what? I still have this, you know, generation, the most current generation phone, and all the other consumers are also purchasing the most current generation, even though their business practices are complete trash as far as closed source, right? So as long as you're producing that good, as long as you're producing that great product, that the consumer's going to want, we're going to see that continue, right?
It's because you're a slave to Apple.
That checks out.
All of you.
No, I'm
So-
Android man. I have no no Apple
Plus
product.
one of the team. That's right. Hell
He
yeah.
was saying Notepad earlier, so I was sure he was using a Macintosh laptop.
Oh no, it's called Sticky Notes is what it's called. That's what I use.
Apple
So
sucks, right?
I want to just rewind in history back to what we were first talking about at the beginning of the episode. When you first started you filmed that interview with Control Pew, and then later, like a year later, I think you said, filmed the Bear Arms and Bitcoin interviews. Can you talk a little bit about how that spiraled into what might be fair to call an obsession with printing guns now?
Yeah, 100%. So, like I said, so I used to live in Southern California for the first 30 years of my life. I moved to Texas like 4 years ago. I bought a gun. You know, I've never been anti-gun, but I've never been super like I owned one gun in California. You know, one California compliant 6-hour, and once I went to that gun range, that was the first time I ever shot a rifle. So I have not even shot many guns at all. I saw those. I'm like, it kind of just got me hooked instantly because first of all, I wanted to make an FGC 9. I shot their FGC 9. That was the thing. So I loved all of this community. I love ARs. I love Glocks. I love all that. But they don't excite me nearly as much as the stuff that you can build entirely at home, because all it takes is one ATF signature to say now barrels are regulated. Now whatever. Who knows what they're going to say? So I like the idea of something you can make completely at home. So I saw the FGC 9. I shot it. It worked flawlessly at the range. Like it didn't malfunction once. A bunch of people shot it, not just me. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to build an FGC 9. And that's kind of where it started. I had a ton of issues with my FGC 9. If anybody saw my videos, the number one issue was my barrel that I got was not to spec. And I didn't know that. I bought it from MAF. They replaced it for free. But like if I put a 9mm round into it, it would not come out. I had to take like a screwdriver to pull it out. I guess that wasn't correct. And once I got a proper barrel in it, I had an out of battery even. Speaking of your guys' name, I had an out of battery on my FGC 9. But luckily my print held up and it didn't even shatter. Once I built the FGC 9, I got it working. I was hooked. Because on top of that, JSD reached out, and I think JSD offered me a gun that they sold on their website kit. They're like, "What would you like?" I'm like, "I'll try the Shield 9mm." And so they sent me the Shield 9mm. I built that, and I'm like, "All right, well now I got 2 3D printed guns," and I don't know. It kind of spiraled out of there. So I have 3 non-3D printed guns, and I probably have like 15 3D printed guns at this point.
Hell
So
yeah.
I'm going to keep adding them. I always say I'm not an expert. I've only shot, a handful of caliber types even. I don't think I've ever even shot like a 40, for instance. I've never shot a 40. I have, 9s, 45s, and 223s basically. But I have fallen in love with the hobby. It's expensive as hell, so normally I try to stick
Not for the pores.
Yeah. Luckily, a few companies have been nice enough to send me parts kits to make a video on, and that's kind of where I've been. If somebody is watching this and wants to offer me a parts kit, boom, you have a video made, because I don't care what it is. It's way cooler than a free 3D printer, in my opinion.
So I will tell you that 2 very handsome men, 3D Arms and the very own Danny Meatball here, have 50 cal lowers. So start pitching to 50 cal upper
Hell
people and start getting that shit rolling.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, and well, the thing was, I used to post my videos on my main channel before I had to separate the 2 channels because of YouTube, and I think I was getting more offers back then because I had a lot more subscribers to share it to.
Yeah.
Have you gotten a strike on the 3D print general, and have you gotten a strike on the 3D Pew general?
Yeah, so the 3D print general, I got hit in rapid succession. First was I think my building the FGC9. I called it building an FGC9, but I didn't tell you how to build it. I just I just talked about it, and that video had like 300,000 views. That got a warning. I made a video saying like, "What the hell? Like, I didn't break the guidelines," and then I got 2 in a row. The Control Pew interview, the one I very first interview I made in 2020, which was just an interview. I showed B-roll footage of people shooting guns, but it was just an interview. That got me my first strike. And then I got something else like right after it. I think my 3011 video got hit. And so because of that, I'm like, oh, I'm one strike. Those happened in 10 minutes, within 10 minutes of each other. I got both of those. So I'm like, oh, they're coming for me. Like I have to act quick. And so I deleted every single gun video off of my main channel, the 3D Print General, and I uploaded them all to 3D Pew General. And I've been uploading the 3D Pew General since on 3D printed guns. I made the decision I will never join YouTube partnership on that channel. And I think that, I don't know, knock on wood, that has kept me off the radar because I have not gotten anything. I also think it makes me get less views, but I have no monetization possible on my new channel, and I'm going to keep it that way because I don't want to like apply for monetization and then next thing you know, they give me 3 strikes. So
I will tell you that I'm not monetized on mine, and I haven't made a video in a while because I got 2 strikes in a row, and I'm like, well, fuck. Like, and they're both videos that were old, so I'm just like, do I show printed guns anymore? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's all about who you get to review it and who you get to look at it. Because I've had a couple of the videos I got striked, they were not only approved for monetization, they were manually reviewed, approved for monetization. So it was like manual review, approved for monetization, and you get a strike. And so it's just like, and then I appealed both of the ones I got a strike on. The 3011, I actually won the appeal. That one, they said, oh, you're right, this doesn't go against our guidelines. But my interview with Control Pew, I didn't win the appeal. So it's all about who you get to look at it. And if they have any sort of political bias, you know, you're not winning that appeal, regardless of if it meets the standards.
So with that, what's the move? Like, is YouTube really the only platform that we should be focusing on?
I am very hopeful, maybe wrongfully so, but I am hopeful that Twitter is going to be including some sort of longer form video content that Elon keeps saying, what if we offer more money than YouTube? What if we do this? And who knows? He doesn't seem to be the most pro 2A guy on the planet. So we don't know where it goes, but that's my biggest hope because all of these other alternatives, I promote Odyssey all the time. I promote Odyssey. I promote Rumble. I promote Utreon. I promote them, but nobody uses them. Nobody uses them. And it's
I want to ask you about Rumble because, you know, as people are getting kicked off of YouTube, and it's the conservative folks who are getting kicked off YouTube, or at least anti-establishment type folks, a lot of the bigger names are promoting Rumble. Do you stream on Rumble?
All of my stuff auto uploads to Rumble. It's actually my least favorite user interface of all the alternatives. I feel like Odyssey has the best user interface when it comes to like similar to YouTube. Rumble, I'm not gonna lie, I'm confused even to this day of like, what am I doing wrong? Because I have a user with the same username as my channel name, and then when I come to use it, I'm like, this is not user intuitive. But if you're a big name person who got kicked off YouTube, yes, you can do very good on Rumble. But I'll give you an example. I have been on all of these alternatives for probably a year and a half. All of the views I've ever gotten on all of them combined is equal to 1 week on YouTube that I get on views. So, and it's hard for me to blame them because when I want to watch videos, I use YouTube. You know, it's like, how can I blame them when I'm doing the same thing? So I really think it's twofold. Either we need really big YouTube creators who join these alternatives with, like we can scream into the sky all day and it's not going to change anything. We need somebody like a PewDiePie or somebody big to join one of these, or Twitter does what we're saying and what I'm hoping. And because they already have a user base who logs in 40 times a day and can see the videos. Otherwise, if neither one of those happen, I'm not super hopeful. I think that we're all not long for this YouTube world. So I don't know. I don't know.
I don't
if we
even
get
know how to
long
sign up for
format-
Rumble.
Yeah, if we get
The secret
Rumble-
to YouTube is point your fucking Glock at yourself, show the bullet in the barrel, print switches, wave them bitches around. Don't fucking handle
See,
firearms
I know-
properly.
I
The
know-
algorithm is looking for that.
I know what BitPlum's searches are on YouTube because that's the algorithm what shows him. But
Bro,
the thing is,
mishandle your firearm, go viral. Handle your firearm properly, banned.
That is
so
true.
yeah, and I think if like what you're saying, like, if Twitter goes and gives us a long format video platform, done. It's done. It's over. We got it. That's it. That's where we go. There's already lots of gunCAD there. Cringy, but there. But I mean, but the way they're being handled right now, the way that company's being handled right now, that's where we want to be.
Yeah, and they have to be able to also, one of the most important things that YouTube does is they promote videos that weren't made in the last week. You'll get suggested a video from 4 years ago and you'll still get viewed. Twitter, as it is right now, doesn't do that. If something wasn't tweeted within the last 5 days, you won't see it. So that's something they'll need to figure out. But yeah, that's currently where I'm most white-pilled on or most hopeful on is Twitter. And like I said, it's hard to put all my hope into one basket. But if it's not that, then we need some big creators to promote the Odyssey or Rumble, and then we need Rumble to update their user interface because I think it's absolutely terrible.
I went to sign up for Rumble the other day, and I'm like, do I need the free one, the medium one, or the paid one? How do I upload my own videos and just what? I don't get this.
Do you use BitChute?
I've never signed up for BitChute. Maybe I should, but does it auto connect? So the thing I really look for is, does it auto upload my videos from YouTube? Because that's a big deal when you're, trying to upload to 12 different places.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah, everybody's like Odyssey, and I agree, except for when Odyssey, takes a dump and doesn't allow you to download anything for a week.
Odyssey
I
search
love it when you see the comments and everybody's like, "What?"
Yeah, I feel
what
like
is
we've had
failing
weird
the
Odyssey errors. Oh,
So I want to
wait.
speak on that.
I
Odyssey
just
has been
realized
having an
I can
issue.
only hear Justin. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
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 I don't know
I
what's
wanna-
going on with my audio, but I realized multiple people were talking and I can only hear Justin. I don't know what's going on. One sec.
I want to speak to the Odyssey thing. So on Odyssey, if you're unable to download right now, in the URL and the thing that pops up that says the download's not available, just delete download equals true. Just delete that part. If you get rid of that, you're good. It'll download straight from there. So if you keep getting that issue, just remove download equals true.
Yeah, Odyssey, I think. I also, the people who started library and stuff are people who I really like. So I really like Odyssey. It's just nobody's using. I mean, I'm looking at the views. It's like like I said, I understand it. I'm not only watching videos to get politics and gun stuff. I like comedy. I like random stuff, and YouTube suggests those videos to me. So I use YouTube, even though I love Odyssey. I don't really use it. So it's kind of hard for me to bag on the people who are not going on Odyssey.
Yeah. Odyssey is still too niche, I think. Like, you don't go there for anything other than what exactly you go there for.
That's why we need big content creators to make it normal, where it's just I'm trying to say hey, even if you never use Odyssey, it takes 2 clicks and your whole video catalog is backed up. Just do that. And so that's where my point is coming from. But if we get a couple
Let's
big
start
creators,
flagging all the big content creators so they get kicked off YouTube, and then they have to go over to the other platform.
Sorry,
There you go.
Iraq
This is-
veteran
This
8888.
is
But then Rumble will just give them like $1 million contract, and they'll only be on Rumble. And,
Right. Maybe this is what we need to do while we're at SHOT Show. We run into any of the influencers while we're there. Was like, hey, can you guys just upload your shit to Odyssey so we can like have this platform that is okay with the things that we're all doing? So
3D Print General, have you ever been to SHOT Show?
I have not. No, I went to Primary Arms. That's the only gun show I think I've been to.
one of their shoot days.
Yeah, I was actually the cameraman for my buddy who wrote for Guns America. I wasn't even there for myself. I was just there with him. And so I just shot video and pictures for him. But they every booth they were like, cameraman, you want to shoot? I'm like, hell yeah. So I got to shoot everything there. But
It's always the benefit of being the guy behind the camera at whatever event you're going to is most of the time that people are very considerate of you. And you get free drinks, free food, get to use whatever they're trying to show off. You're like, yeah, I'll take that cheesecake. Hell yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's hard for me to justify for my channel because I'm so 3D printing specific, where if it's not a 3D printed gun, what am I doing covering it? Like, I'm not the right guy for this. I don't know guns. Why am I covering this? So
Yeah, that's true.
oh, so I see the comment, Unseen Killer. Oh, hey, what's up, man? Hey, he was actually there. So was Middleton Made. I don't know where Danny Meatball was.
I don't have
tried to
Twitter.
get Danny
I do
on
have a
Actually,
Twitter now.
He
We told
heard
Danny.
that you couldn't have enough people on at the same time, so he didn't want to give you any more heartache. So he just did you
Yeah.
a favor and stayed away.
I was
So
the
kind of
11th
you.
person in line.
So kind of you. But for next year's awards, so I learned a lot from what I did wrong on the first one. I think number one is I need to have time slots for each person. So first of all, my fiance told me she watched the stream and she was like, you cut off everyone. And I was like, oh, I was just freaking out. Like, we need to get the next thing going. We need to bring new people in. And so I think I'm going to have time slots for like, hey, you 3 people, you're here for the first 10 minutes. You 3 people are, and that would help a lot. I'm going to try to come up with even more unique advertisements for the stream. And I mean, overall it was fun. I just think I need to figure out the meat of it. That was, I was just standing there going, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So
we've had some similar things like that where we'll just designate a producer. So maybe that's something to look into. Just designate someone to produce it for you, and then have that structure.
Oh,
Makes
and you
it
want to
a
know
lot better.
The whole stream was in my office right behind my workbench behind me. That whole thing, I set up a green screen. I had a total of like 6 inches that I could move, like in any direction.
No.
And so that's another thing I want to set up where I'm actually in a larger place where literally I was just standing there in like in a box like the whole time.
So I wanted to say about the award show, the stars of the show, in my opinion, number 1, the advertisements killed it. Number 2, AG Cast. AG Cast, star of the show, dude. I know it got memed about, but you should bring AG Cast for the next episode, man.
Well, I'm open about the fact I'm trying to turn him into the Toby of the 3D printed gun world. You all are too nice to him. Be open. He's one of the. So I'll be honest here. He's one of the few people I know that I feel like I can say anything I want mean to him, and he won't take offense to it. So I like that part about AG Cast. So yes, he is a big deal, and we should all continue to mock him as much as we can.
We've asked AG Cast to be on the show like 20 times. He keeps ignoring our emails, our direct messages. Like, what's up, AG? I know we've invited you to be on Out of Battery.
He's
Dude,
a
I've
terrible
DM'd
guest.
pictures of my dick, and he
Dude,
doesn't
he'll just talk about anime butt the whole time. It's not worth it. You shouldn't do it.
This is a weeb-free broadcast.
Exactly.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up about the awards, What the heck? You gave PSR the award, not us? I'm crying. Out of Battery didn't win. What?
Feels bad, man.
Dude, I wasn't
Rigged.
in control of any of it. I wasn't in control of the nominations nor the voting.
Clearly.
I uploaded the entire Excel spreadsheet so everybody can see. And he said, "Oh yeah, right, AGCast." They I did. So there's a few winners who I was even like, I would have preferred to go to this other person, but I'm not gonna rig it. So like, I really wanted JSD to get the most supportive company. I love Polymaker. They're my like great friends. I wanted JSD to get it, and they lost by like 20 votes or something really small. And I'm just like, Polymaker's great, but they're just kind of silently supporting us versus, JSD, who's very publicly supporting us. And but yeah, I just went 100% with the numbers. Hey, and Print Your Repeat for content creator of the year. Dude, he didn't only win; he won with like
a landslide.
Like
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Every bit of that.
Rightfully so.
Yeah,
Yes.
second place was no answer provided. So we were very far behind.
So he had acceptance
rather watch
speeches.
nothing
Did
than
those
us.
get released somewhere? Are they on Twitter?
I posted them on Twitter. So if you go to my pinned tweet on Twitter, I have a whole thread about who won each award. And for his awards, I uploaded the video of his acceptance speech. I thought it might be weird to just do them as their own unique video on my YouTube channel. I was thinking about doing that, but I'm like, PSR acceptance speeches. And right now they're just on Twitter on my pinned tweet. I could upload them at other places if people tell me to, but
I'll go check those out.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see them.
I think overall you did really good with it, and for it being the first of its kind, I think that it's something that our community needed. It's something that, like, even if it wasn't the most put together and professional thing, it was still really fun for everyone involved, and I think it was really fun to watch. And you as the host probably felt a lot more of that stress, a lot more of the, oh man, and I'm fucking this all up. None of us felt that way, and we thought it was pretty cool. So
the whole time I'm like, literally, like, I remember at the beginning, I'm like, I don't even have the nominees in front of me on the computer, and I'm like, shit, you guys talk for a little while I look up who the nominees are. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. And it's funny, I literally came up with the idea. So I came up with the idea because there's a 3D printing awards where they're like, and I think that's rigged. I think that is 100% rigged. But they I saw they were doing it. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. And then I just tweeted it out. I'm like, oh, I guess I gotta do it now. And
Mistakes were made.
Yeah, it was literally a spur of the moment decision. I tweeted it, and then I was locked in, and I have to do it. So
I think it was fantastic. Me and the wife made a date night out of it. We sat on the couch and watched it. She was cracking up,
nice.
dude. It was great. It was great.
Hell yeah.
So with that, I think it's probably time. You've been a great guest, and we really enjoyed having you here, man. So good luck with your channel and all future gun printing you do. And we'll talk with you again soon.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for being on, man.
for the viewers, we will be having an after party in the Discord. Justin will be posting a link to the Discord momentarily, but before he does, I'm gonna run the outro. Peace.
Wait,
and we will
Don't
what?
forget
No.
what updates. Don't forget, we're gonna do
Oh.
cocaine with Caltech in Las Vegas next weekend.
Oh,
I
we
mean, we're
forgot
doing a
about cocaine with
contest.
Forgot
Caltech.
about cocaine with Caltech.
and it's due next weekend.
So
Oh,
if
don't
you
fucking
guys
forget.
haven't heard, we are doing a very fun thing. We thought of it late at night. We were just dicking around and thought of it. So the idea is this: you basically you come up with your absolutely bonkers gun design things. You may or may not be doing illegal drugs while you think of them, and you send them in on a napkin or your paint drawing, whatever, to us, and we will
Submit them to
talk about them.
Caltech in Las Vegas.
If there are
You
any
have to
crazy
include
ones,
cocaine
yeah,
in
let's
your
do
So,
it.
I mean, we're talking straight up lever action Glocks, pump action revolvers, whatever you got, send it in.
if
If
it
you
would
do it
make
in
Penrose
crayon, it's
proud,
automatically gonna win. Like if it's in crayon, construction paper, origami, fucking winning.
So send those in before next Friday, because next week on Saturday, we will be reviewing some of those with Hoffman Tactical. It will be a lot of fun. So check in for that. The other thing is the week after that, we will be at SHOT Show the whole week. It's going to be a lot. I'm not ready, dude. They're talking about doing more tattoos,
Oh my god.
strip clubs, cocaine. I don't know about this stuff, man. I'm a good
That's-
Christian boy.
That's a lie.
So, General, before we get going, where can people find you, and is there anything that people should be looking out for coming up soon?
So 3D Print General is the YouTube channel, the main one. There's no guns on that channel, and then 3D Pew General is where all the gun stuff is. I've been lagging on making new gun content. Mostly, I have a few different guns I've been talking about forever. So I have a TPU Glock that I know is not gonna. I know it's not gonna function properly, but I don't think it's gonna break because it's pretty strong. But
What rating?
I
So
want
go
to
ahead and subscribe because wow.
Yeah, I want to
He
get.
might be dead in a few weeks.
No, TPU is actually really strong, but it just won't cycle. I don't think it's going to cycle correctly. But like, I want to get that slow mo of it just on like, you know. So I have that. Let me think, and then I have a few. The new version 3 of the Chairman Juan Glocks. I have a couple of those. I don't know. It's just a matter of getting out to the gun range because the one I like to go to is an hour and 40 minutes away. So it's a bit of a drive. But yeah, and then when it comes to my main channel, I have a lot of reviews I have to get back on. So I have the P1P, the Bamboo Lab P1P. I have the Snapmaker J1, which is a very, very fast IDEX printer for only like $1,100, which is a really cool one. But yeah, so I just have a bunch of anticipated reviews that I need to get out. But that's about it.
Cool. So if you're in the new market for a new printer.
Hell yeah. And
Alright.
Middleton, did you have something you wanted to run before the end of the show?
That was it.
That was it. So with that, we will call it. We will see you guys on the Discord. We love you. We will talk to you soon. Peace
Can't
out.
stop signal.
Hell yeah, dude.